Another misconception that we find today in the media about the Prophet ﷺ is that unlike Jesus, the Prophet was violent because he went to war. Whereas Jesus was a type of prophet who, if you slap this cheek, I'll give you the other cheek. He never went to war with anyone. He was the symbol of peace. And they always make that comparison. Haven't you seen that, the Prophet of Islam was violent, he went to war, but the Prophet of Christianity or the Lord of Christianity is a merciful, loving one who did not go to war. Is that true? The claim that Jesus ﷺ never took up arms, is that a true statement? No, it does not. First of all, there's nothing in the Bible that confirms that. Yes, we believe Prophet Isa did invite to love and compassion and mercy. But in fact, there are historical clues that Jesus ﷺ, he did try to mobilize his companions to fight. He did, but he didn't have enough supporters. And in fact, the whole story of the crucifixion demonstrates that he called on his companions to fight. How? The Romans, what was their punishment for sedition? The one who rises against the government, armed, or calls on people, mobilizes people to rise against the rulers of the region. Their punishment was crucifixion. They wouldn't crucify you just for anything. Sedition, the punishment for it was crucifixion. Now, if you were just a man walking, so humble, and you're preaching something new, you think the Romans cared? They didn't care. Okay, fine, let him invent his own religion. Big deal. That's not my concern. The Romans had installed their own rulers in Jerusalem. They acted on behalf of the Romans. Prophet Isa ﷺ told his companions that these people are thieves, these people are corrupt, and we have to take action. In fact, he did call on his people to fight his companions, but he didn't have enough companions to topple them. But he did. And number two, really, Prophet Isa ﷺ, he was facing who? If he wanted to fight, who is he going to fight? The Roman Empire. Well, obviously that's not a wise thing to do. When you have a few companions and they have a huge civilization and state, obviously you're not going to go and drag yourself to death by doing so. So it was not wise for him to fight anyone. Whereas the Prophet ﷺ, he was not dealing with the Roman Empire in the beginning. They were some tribal, people in Mecca who wanted to uproot Islam. The Prophet defended himself. So we see that this is a big misconception. When they compare them, they do injustice to the Prophet. The circumstances of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ later on in his life were different than Jesus. Yes, you want to compare Prophet Muhammad and Jesus and be fair to the analogy, compare Prophet Jesus to Prophet Muhammad in Mecca. The 13 years in Mecca, did the Prophet go to war? Did he seek revenge from anyone? Did he torment anyone? Did he punish anyone? No. It was all forgiveness. Muslim would be tortured. He would be tortured. He would be harassed. He never sought revenge. How come they don't make that comparison? Yes, in Medina now the Prophet was a leader and it was expected of him to defend his society. Prophet Isa ﷺ never had a region that he was ruling or representing for him to defend it. He would go from village to another village preaching. So you have differences over here. Be sure that Prophet Isa ﷺ, if he established a community somewhere in Palestine, and now he was guarding that community, if there were people who came to attack, he would have gone to war for sure. No doubt about that. Yes.
Rasulullah, even when he did become head of state and his rules started to expand, very lenient.
Exactly. What indicates the mercy of the Prophet is that in the 8th year of the Hijrah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him victory, he entered Mecca triumphantly. All those Meccans, the pagans, had blood on their hands. 20 years of persecution, killing, murdering. Now the Prophet had the opportunity to obliterate them. What did he do? He forgave all of them. He did not punish a single one of them. Show me one leader in history who was persecuted along with his community for 20 years. The day he gets victory over his own staunch enemies, he forgives them all. That's the rahmah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes.
So you mentioned that the verses of Nabi Isa are not in the Bible, like anything violent, right?
No, what I meant that in the Bible, we don't have any verses that state Isa alayhi salam never took up a sword and he never tried to fight. There is no such claim in the Bible.
Also, he actually did.
So the Bible does not negate the fact that he did. Even the Bible does not negate that. It doesn't talk about that, but it does not negate that. But in fact, there are indications in which the Prophet Isa alayhi salam sometimes would mobilize people to take up arms. There are indications in the Bible. We can discuss the verses. In fact, we do have commands from Prophet Jesus alayhi salam telling the youth to take up arms. Now they interpret it differently. But in any case, this is one misconception that many Westerners have regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.